Hi guys, I'm the Impaired Grappler and welcome to our podcast. Today we have a very special guest returning. It's Luke Beston from Newcastle, from Beston Jiu-Jitsu. He's recently given up his academy. It's now North-South Jiu-Jitsu, so be sure to check those guys out. But yeah, he's now traveling the world like a Ronin, alone with his backpack, just visiting different gyms. I hear various disciplines all over the world. So yeah, he's on his journey of discovery and all that kind of jazz. So yeah, I'm sure we'll be seeing some kind of documentary one day in the future about his journeys and he's teaching blue belts all over the world. Basically, sort of how to walk and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we touch on gaming. We get into sort of training for triathlons and jiu-jitsu journeys, sarcasm, humour, comedy in dark times. We talk about the media, meme craft, pre and post COVID changes, especially with regards to perception and the toll on coaching and jiu-jitsu academies. We get into the biggest challenges in jiu-jitsu and issues, different eras and trends that come and go. We get into the difference between black belts back in the day versus black belts today. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoy this Rollcast with Luke Beston, and we'll catch you on the other side. Us. Hi guys, I'm the Impaired Grappler and welcome to my podcast. Today I'm visiting a previous guest on the show, Luke Beston. Last time we had some video difficulties, so I didn't record the video, but we had an audio podcast last time. This time I've come to visit him in person to hopefully get the video, get the visuals happening properly. I've even copied his hairstyle the last couple of days since I saw him. I thought, yeah, that'll probably look good on me. So I think you get better at jiu-jitsu when you shave your head, especially no gi. But yeah, Luke, Professor Beston's
Luke's fine, yeah.
Professor Luke's Hoist Gracie black belt affiliate. He's got a lot of self-defense and self-defense knowledge. He does Kali as well, so he can teach and look after himself with regards to self-defense. And yeah, he's like a gaming expert, a meme expert. He's a food connoisseur. If you happen to see his posts on Facebook, and he's also what would you call? You could probably almost call yourself a critic of like Hollywood movies and shows, and he's always posting stuff.
Movie buff, yeah.
Movie buff.
Yeah.
So welcome to podcast.
Thanks, thank you.
Thanks for having me in your lovely home.
You're welcome.
So yeah, just wanted to, or just with that, like talk about the gaming side just quickly, just as an intro. With regards to your gaming and your movie buff sort of career, you're an elite gamer, like with regards to sort of Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2 and 3, and yeah, maybe we can play together online one day. Not that I'm that good. I've been playing mostly the zombies mode on Modern Warfare 3. Yeah, but yeah, you get bored of it after a while. Playing it for a few months, but yeah. So just tell us about your gaming prowess and media, and using your knowledge of fine dining to help fuel your adventures.
So the game, like most things in my life, it's all tongue in cheek. I just play the mode, like the recruit mode, shoot 'em up arcade style, like the games I grew up on. Like I started back in the Commodore 64 days, yeah. And so the games, I just like arcade games. I don't like going on a quest and side quests and that. So I just use it. Same as my diet. It's like junk food, like junk gaming. So yeah, I just play like the old games, and I just go play the campaign over and over, just a little bit at a time. I don't have too much time, so just a little bit at a time. That's always my preference. So yeah, I don't play online against get beat up by 12-year-olds and stuff like that. But yeah, I enjoy it. It's a good little stress release sometimes when the weather's not so good or something like that.
Yeah, cause, the old school Commodore 64 days, that was such a innovation back in the late 80s. It would have been, yeah, I'm sure it was the late 80s when we first got it.
Six,
like
even
86, 87 or something.
Yeah.
And they've actually re-brought it out as
Really?
a little, like a mini. You can get a Commodore 64 Mini. I've got one as well. I've got one at my parents' house. So I can go there. I can play there. Not that I've done it much, but it's just a nice thing. Like the old school games. Even the graphics are horrible, whatever. But there was more to the gameplay, and the stories were better, and it was just more fun.
Yep.
Whereas now it's all like press X and you go into a massive cinematic graphic of like a movie. It's like, are we playing a game or watching a movie? Which, that's nice and being immersive in that. But so...
and I was right into gaming, and like that was like I was the first generation. Like that's when PCs first came out. Like I was one of the kids that had like a problem with too much screen time.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I got into martial arts. The parents like, you can't be on the computer all the time. You have to do an activity. And thank God they gave me a lot of good advice, but they pushed me into like doing martial arts, and the rest is history.
Yeah, well, my father was like, you've got to get off the couch, and do something. So, like the stubborn person I am, I got into triathlons, and then I went full on into the Ironman triathlons and finished 3 of those.
Wow.
But yeah, like it was like almost 10 years of just getting into the coaching and all levels of triathlon. And part of my issues now, I would have burnt my body out and wrecked my body doing that. But then also sort of Jiu-Jitsu, because I was doing that from the 90s, the Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. And then I was doing some other stuff, early 2000s, but then went overseas and came back. The school had sort of closed. But then, found sort of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu style in the mid 2000s, I think. So, it's been a big journey, and now we're here, sort of broken body, but and the broken body is mostly more due to my arthritis as opposed to like getting injured doing jiu-jitsu. So I've always been paranoid with getting injuries, because I know like last time we spoke, you said you haven't had major injuries, and you do a lot of stretching during the day, just all the joints through the range of motion. I've always been paranoid, and if a joint gets in a bad position, tap early, tap often, and don't let the ego hold you back. Because I would have had way more injuries, and I never would have lasted this long if I was like that. I don't know how long I would last, because my new hip injury has been it's been a few years, but the last few months has been a bit difficult with a few setbacks I've had. But anyway, so if you could just, for those that haven't listened to the last podcast, could you just recap your history from like being interested in martial arts from a young age, like you said, getting off the couch or getting away from the screens to do something. Like, can you talk about your sort of history and just like a brief synopsis of your journey over the last, just for a few minutes?
Yep. Yeah, so since I can remember, obsessed with martial arts, like the martial arts movies and stuff, like most of us my age. The long story is like, or the short version of the long story, my parents really encouraged reading. They said, I'll get you anything from the library as long as you read. And so every month, Mum would get Black Belt magazine, this like the karate books and stuff. I'd read, and this went on for a few years. And then eventually I said, well, you're always reading these books on karate, you're always reading these books on taekwondo, whatever, ninjutsu. Why don't you go and actually do a class? And I did, started taekwondo. Luckily, the club near my house is a very good instructor, very good philosophy and things like that. So it was taekwondo, and went to brown belt in that. And then 1993 happened. Like for most people around my age that were like obsessed with the martial arts, you saw UFC. Yeah. Went and tried a class, got smashed and was hooked, So not smashed, just got, same as everyone they had two stories. They go in, they get dominated either by, a teen or someone very much more than them. And then they say, oh, this is BS, or there's something super, super amazing about this, and I want to be part of it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm nearly a black belt, so I'll be fine.
If I could have bitten or I gouged, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's all that. And yeah, because I remember when we did Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, we went the old, open the guard with the elbow to the pressure point. That was the old school way.
Yeah. So luckily, again, there was some guys in Newcastle, Neil Bodycott and Ian Wright, who had like the submission grappling club here in Newcastle, and they did a lot of seminars, particularly with like John Will, and then BJJ proper with Sean Kirkwood. Around that same time, he was out at Rutherford, which is an hour out of town, and started training with him. And then train. Met my wife Angela as a purple belt. So we've been married 20 odd years now. But yeah, back then started training with her family and her representatives here, and still training today. So yeah, been training 30 odd years now.
Yeah, and like just getting into sort of you like to have a bit of a joke around, and like when was have you always been like that? Like the earliest memories, like being sort of like a comedian. It's like sort of your teaching style. You sort of crack.
I think it's Australian in general. We're sarcastic.
Mm.
I think you have to be careful in the martial arts. Some people goof around too much, and I'm probably that end. But some people take it way too serious. And I believe there's a time when you should stand up straight and be quiet and pay attention. But then at the same time, some people get too like LARPy or Dungeons and Dragons, and they just take it themselves way too serious. And that's kind of what's always just I reminded myself, like, look, just there's bigger things in life than this, and so just always like most of the jokes are at my own expense kind of thing. So I never ridicule anyone else, but that's what I think. Just in general, I see, especially where I come from, a lot of, but not all, the traditional martial arts, they take themselves way too seriously.
Yeah, it's like real fight and this and that and street. It's because when you go to train, like you don't want to be fighting for your life every time you roll. You're rolling like almost every day, and it's like you don't want to be like. Sometimes you just want to have a fun roll.
Training. If you ask me, like this is so rough, that training should be like going to the beach. That's my thing. Like I look forward to going to the beach. I can't wait to get there. Sometimes I get dumped. Sometimes I get a head full of sand. But I go home and I'm glad I went to the beach. And that's what training should be. That doesn't mean it has to always be rainbows and that, but it can be hard. But the environment should be one that you look forward to going to. For you get there's something that you find pleasurable there.
Yeah, well, it's like grappling or like fighting is like one of the hardest things you're going to do in your everyday life as just a normal citizen, just a person, just a normal person. Yeah, fighting, going to a martial arts club and fighting, you're not going to be doing anything much more intense than that in your general life generally. So it's like if you're too serious and you're just not having fun, then it's like, well, sort of what's the point? Why are you putting yourself through that, all the suffering, without having a bit of a laugh sometimes,
Yeah, taking yourself too serious. The logical conclusion of that is like the no touch knockouts and stuff. That's where it starts. You take yourself too seriously, and then you can beat 10 of your students, and then you can beat them without touching them, and then that's how these things
human nature. Your students don't want to show you up, so they're like, oh, okay, like when people are looking for you, and they're like, oh, well, how should I react, rather than just being there and just sitting around. Yeah, because like comedy is important. They're like, and people say, oh, that's a bit harsh to say, but it's like in the darkest times, comedy is used to deflate situations and make people happy and not take themselves too serious. Like especially with all the ethnics that like came to Australia, and they used to joke around with each other left, right, and centre. They used to be called all sorts of names and dish it back and forth, and it's like a whole. But without that like comedy aspect of it, like basically giving someone shit, which is sort of like an Australian tradition, like being sarcastic, giving people shit, like that's so important for the psychology of the people,
Yep.
It helps you get through all the negativity, and I think we take that a little bit too much for granted these days, and like people are too sensitive and want to censor everything, where it's like if you actually care about people's mental health, you probably maybe should take it less seriously and allow some of these jokes to happen. Otherwise it festers and things actually become hateful, and like there's sort of a pressure release for hate.
Yep.
I don't know if that.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Like that's why I pick on my blue belts. Like they know me. If I pick on a white belt, they might think, "Hey, this guy's just an a-hole or a jerk." But the blue belts know I'm only joking, but they know I hate them also.
Yeah, because I saw something on Facebook. You were doing milk crate combatives a while back. that looked like fun during was a kids class. You had a
Oh, the Optimus Prime, bit of a suit of armour out of milk crates, yeah.
And they were throwing balls at you, and
That was not long after the attack in Melbourne. They held the guy down with the milk crate. We do like Carly's, like a lot of improvised weapons, but no, the kids love to beat me up, yeah.
Yeah, well, there's another dude that was using a shopping trolley to keep away the knife, but it's like, yeah, of course, that's self-defense, that's jiu-jitsu, that's what you're supposed to do. So, like, we were talking about sort of media before. Is there any patterns, good or bad, that you've seen in the latest stuff in Hollywood, like with all the censorship and people? Do you think that they take it too far? That they like you said, they're too serious as opposed to being, and the product they're releasing a lot of the times just doesn't hit the mark, and it's just.
So I'm easily entertained. I'm like, again, this same as my being a film buff is tongue in cheek as much as my gaming. I don't really get some of the movies that people rave about. I just don't get, because I miss, it goes over my head, and that's fine. But I just like the movies to entertain me, and that could be an action film, it could be a drama, it could be a horror. Some movies, those suspense movies, like I really like. But I just like the movie to entertain me. Like my whole philosophy is like, again, I'm a very simple man. Like I shouldn't have to deconstruct something to get enjoyment out of it. Like I'm not like, it's not like an art masterpiece, if that makes sense. So I just, I as long as it's entertaining, I like it. So
yeah, well, yes, same here. It's like I'm easily entertained, but it's like if you build a universe, say, and then you got a whole series of movies, then all of a sudden you go back, oh wait, we're going to change the start of it. It's like, why are you changing something?
Yeah,
because like I've already put myself in the mode of understanding this universe, and it's like, then it all gets changed, like retroactively go back in time and change. It's like, why are you changing the past?
Yeah,
just build on it or come up with a new story. And it's like, they're not. They get a bit.
Just the sequels in general. I think it's hard. Like I prefer like the newer things, but like when the Marvel movies like first came out, I was like, I couldn't wait. Like the X-Men, like every kid like my age loves Wolverine and things like that. Everyone. So when those motion pictures come, even like Ninja Turtles, when the motion picture was coming out, we were all excited about that back in the day.
Yeah, pretty much. So it's like, so basically, like, we spoke last time about meme craft and trolling, and like, for me, you're like a pioneer in meme craft, in jiu-jitsu, or at least in Oz. But it seems that now there's a lot more people that are doing similar sort of things to get clicks, whereas you just had you have your private Facebook group that you just with your friends, and you sort of being like you said, it's being sarcastic and funny and whatever, and sort of trolling people, and not in a hateful way, but just being funny. But it seems there's a lot more of that now, that like people are sort of taking the reins and run with it, and building whole careers on. I won't mention names, like you can if you want, but well, what are your thoughts on that? And
I think it's true. Like my thing, I think it's Andy Kaufman. I know one of the great comedians, like, again, I'm not a comedy buff or anything, said, as long as I find the joke funny, it's funny. So as long as that's why I'm not there to entertain everyone. Like my friends, we can have a joke together. Most of them are kind of inside jokes. If you just saw some of the stuff I posted, like, I've got no idea what that means. So as long as I find it funny, you find it funny, then it's funny. But like Craig Jones, for example, like he's, of course, a million times, he's very witty, he's a very smart guy, but he's kind of like, 20 years ago I was saying like catch wrestling doesn't exist and Sambo sucks and blah blah blah. So of course, I'm not trying to compare myself to him, but it's he's building like a massive following based on that, because he's doing a similar thing, but of course he's a million times better.
Yeah, even his all his merch is like that as well. It's like, even the name, the B Team. We're the second best. It's like
very smart guy.
It's like, because I saw a video of him today. It was on Instagram. He was talking about, that's my whole marketing strategy, is just he was talking about he got Rodolfo. He's like, one of the Rodolfo brothers, and he was like, I waited. I didn't want to fight him when he was 17, but I waited till he turned 18.
Yeah.
Like when he was still young, didn't have the adult strength, and I fought him then. And then it's like, then that's my whole marketing strategy, to get these big names, fight them at their weakest, like when I can do my best, and build my career on that. And that's like, it's just, it's a.
But again, that shot's fired, because some guys in the UFC, again, the mentioned among the greats, they do that. They're very selective. They're going to pick certain fights at certain times, rather than just try and beat the best person in front of them. And that you have to do that. I get it.
So do you reckon that the new generation guys, like Craig Jones and that, they're keeping the art of the meme craft, the troll?
Oh yeah, like anything. Well? You look at basketball from 20 years ago, boxing from 20 years ago. Yeah, the current generation, walk all over the originals kind of thing in that sense.
Fair enough. And like, what influences, like who have been your biggest influences in life, like whether in life or within the martial arts community, that have helped you sort of?
Yeah. So it's kind of a weird answer. Like I've been asked this before. I've only met the guy one time, but the guy who influenced me, like of course I've trained with so many languages. So besides the ones I've trained with directly, the one who influenced me the most was Dan Inosanto, right? So he's Bruce Lee's student and like the modern grandmaster of Jeet Kune Do, and that's why I got into Jiu-Jitsu, because again when I was going to the library and reading all these books, Jeet Kune Do was the MMA of the day. It was the new hotness. It was what all the cool kids were doing. So you were doing multiple styles, and you were seeking out the best in any given art. So in Kali, I sought out the masters there, Ray Flora, for the best person I can, and try and learn directly from them. In Jiu-Jitsu, learn from the family and train from them directly. And that's like go to the source and learn from the best you possibly can. So Jiu-Jitsu was a result of that philosophy, and I still follow that philosophy to this day. And I only got to train with him in person, maybe 10 years ago, like long after I'd started. But his articles and that whole philosophy is still like the bedrock of my training and my overall martial arts philosophy.
Yeah, I'd love to meet him. And
Brilliant guy.
Yeah, because everyone that's met him, everyone's raved about him. Everyone that I know that I've seen posts and that everyone just raves or spoken to in person. Yeah, they say how awesome he is, and he was like Bruce Lee's student, but like that philosophy is why a lot of us are here today.
Yep, he was a pioneer in so many things. That was the one that he's best known for, but he was a pioneer in Muay Thai, a pioneer in BJJ, pioneer in Kali. So
he's a Machado black belt.
Yep.
Yeah. And the other day you mentioned you might need to meditate over something. Like how do you find peace? Do you like do meditation, or is it more just through jiu-jitsu? Or
I don't meditate. That was just a figure of speech. So I distract myself. I've got a very busy mind. Like I'm always I have to try, and so normally I have a sauna here. So that's the one thing I'll do. Like because if you've probably seen me here while we're waiting, I keep picking up my phone, look at my phone. I'm trying to stop being addicted to checking my notifications and stuff. But the sauna is good when it's especially in the cooler weather. I like to sit in the sauna. That's the one time where I just kind of I'm not reading a book or looking at a screen or engaging with someone else. Or just sitting on my back veranda here, just because it looks out over the valley there. I'll sit out there sometimes, and again, I'm not sure if there's something wrong with me. I just find it very hard to sit still and just be alone with myself. I've always got to have a book or a screen or a person. Yeah,
I think that's pretty common in jiu-jitsu. The jiu-jitsu autism. Yeah, you just got to keep under control. Just like back and forth, and I think that's probably what attracts us to it the most, because it sort of helps. Because it's like human chess, and you're doing a million things at once. It's like and if there's music on as well, or if people talking, and you're going and then you're rolling with someone, you're looking at someone else. What are they doing? Okay, cool. And then back to you sort of. But then you get a lot of times you get into the flow of the roll. You're just in the flow state, and for me that's like a meditative state. You're just flowing and feeling, not thinking about moves. A lot of the times, just.
Yeah, that's true.
Just let the body go. Okay, what if I go this way or that way, rather than, the move is X, A, B, C. I've got to do X, Y, Z. Okay, I've got to grab the lapel, do this, grab the head, grab the arm, do this, shift this way, go that way. But sometimes it's just like, just get into the flow and just as they're going there, I'm going to flow this way.
I find that too. That and similar thing. Sometimes riding my motorbike is good. Like similar kind of thing. You just kind of have, because you have to be focused on the task at hand. And all of a sudden, like many of the masters will say, you know, on the mat you have no problems. You don't have bills. You don't have family issues. You don't have this or that. You've got you know, and for that half an hour or hour or whatever, the burdens of the world aren't on your shoulders.
You put that stuff aside and it doesn't matter anymore. So with like we spoke during COVID and we were still locked down, and you guys had opened up, and like I think you mentioned that there was a big change. Like that was a change, like 9/11, and it's like the day before 9/11 was the day after was a completely different world. What differences have you noticed, like post versus pre-COVID? Just in
jiu-jitsu or in general? Both,
yeah, more in general, but like if there's any change in jiu-jitsu, I mean, since we started back, I think most people sort of getting back to the how it was, but yes, it's just a sort of a little bit different with jiu-jitsu, but just in general, it's way different.
So I think like the whole work from home thing has changed society. Like the times people shop, the time people work, the time people do things. I think it's given people in general a lot more flexibility with their life. They can balance. Yes, some people work very hard, but now I don't have to work hard from 8 till 6. You have some people, they work from 6 in the morning, they'll work a bit, and then they'll be working at 10 o'clock at night. But then they can take their kid to soccer in the afternoon. That, you know, of course, there's other jobs where you don't have that luxury. But you know, I think one of the good things. The only good thing about that was that work from home and not having to go to a physical location just because that was it. So I think people's schedules and flex are a little different now. Like, and that flow onto jiu-jitsu. Like when people train now, people were always like, hey, we always train at 6 or 7 at night because everyone works from 9 to 5, goes home, has dinner, and comes to training. But now, half the guys who are finishing work at 3, they train at 3:30. You know, jiu-jitsu in general has changed like that. You know.
I've noticed that. Like the classes, the times have changed. Like the attendances, whereas before COVID,
our attendance is very different from beforehand. Like when I'm teaching and what I'm teaching is different. You know, for a bunch of reasons, but like COVID was it changed the way I looked at a lot of things, like just in general, not for the better, but you know, so that COVID took the wind out of my jiu-jitsu sales. Like I'm still passionate about it. I'm on the mat literally 7 days a week, most weeks, but it did take some of my passion away just because it was, especially running an academy, it was very, very stressful, super stressful at the time. Like now, if you hadn't known this is how it would have ended up, would have been able to easily write it out. But at the time, like it was looking very dark, you know, for a lot of academy owners, myself included. And it was like, man, you know, is this really what I want to do, kind of thing?
Well, it's like, I think, like you mentioned the other day, your perception of surviving the zombie apocalypse has changed.
Yep.
Could you talk about what you mean by that?
So again, like martial arts is almost an extension of zombie apocalypse or just prepping and stuff like that. I'm not a prepper. I don't go camping and stuff like that, but I just find it fascinating, like the zombie stuff and prepping. It's just like martial arts is an example of being prepared for a potential bad situation. So,
and composure under pressure as well.
Correct. And so just being prepared in general, because so I mentioned before, like we had massive storms here many years ago. It's where the Pasha Bulk is famous, like washed up on the beach here at Nobby's, and I had stuff at home like like flint and things like that, but I didn't have a radio, so and there was not so much internet at the time. We had no power. I didn't know when the stores were going to come back online, when I'd be able to go and fill up my car. My car had no petrol in it. Just simple everyday things. People get, like even me, get caught in the ninja stuff when it's just like everyday common sense that I had tended to neglect. Like don't let your car get more than half empty. You're half full.
Yeah, well, you could have all the stuff at home, but if you don't have it on you and you're stuck out somewhere, and it's no use to you if it's not on you. Like we had the fires as well before COVID in 2019, and like that was a pretty full-on experience. So you've been teaching for 20 years,
Probably
roughly?
more, yeah.
Probably more,
Yeah.
So could you talk about, like the desire and the toll of coaching, and has it sort of, since COVID, has that deflated your desire at all, or do you still have the passion for it? Like, cause I imagine after 20 years, the passion's...
It's a bunch of factors. Like around COVID, it's the same time Angela got sick. So that was two big things that happened almost at the exact same time. And there's a difference, like you have to split out two, like running an academy and teaching are two very different things. Just like being good at jiu-jitsu doesn't mean you're a good teacher, but running an academy is another whole skill compared to being a good teacher. You can be, I think I'm a decent teacher, but I'm not that good, I think, at running an academy. I'm not a business person. I don't like dealing with all that stress, but I just did it because at the time it was like, okay, you're the senior, you start the academy, you run the classes. So I'm planning to step away in the near future. Like, I'm not sure how much I'll step away. I definitely won't be running an academy. And then I'm not making any commitments. Like I don't want to make any promises I can't keep. Like martial arts is part of my DNA. I can't see me not doing anything, but I just don't know what the future holds. But yeah, my body's, I'm getting to an age to it at the exact same time where it's not as easy as it used to be. I was never an athletic person, but now, I don't have the same energy reserves as I used to, like physical energy reserves,
Yeah, because I've sort of recently started teaching, and when my instructor Philip went overseas for I think 6 months, was sort of helping running the classes and keep the schedule and stuff, and it's just so much different. It's like, especially like being a bit older, I was like, I've started teaching, and it's like, it's far more draining. Like even just the teaching aspect is far more draining than you think, as opposed to just rocking up and rolling. You think, yeah, training hard, teaching wouldn't be that much different, but just the I guess the emotional kind of spiritual toll, and like you try not to make mistakes, and it's like, okay, these people are sort of listening to you, and it's like one thing to be on that side of the mat versus this side of the mat, looking at everyone else, and they're looking at you.
No, being an instructor, like not all people take it this way, but like everyone, well, not everyone, I shouldn't say that, but like it's a massive responsibility. Like John Will says this a lot. Like people have worked very hard in their day jobs to earn money to pay the fees. They're taking time away from their growing kids and their family and going to the beach and going along and coming to your school. It's a massive responsibility to make sure you do everything and anything that they get the most from that time. And that means a lot of preparation for classes, and a lot of being very present. You can't, like a kids classes are, but adults is the same. You can't slip for 1 second. I feel horrible. Sometimes I come in, there's a bunch of people on the mat, and I didn't even acknowledge one person one day, and I'll kick myself away, because every person on the mat is very, very special. And again, like I said, it's a huge responsibility, and I think some people take it lightly, or some I have a saying, everyone wants to be an instructor till it's time to instructor things. People, I've got to update my own training. I've got to constantly try and keep my skills up to date so that I'm doing the best possible service for my students. That's sort of what I've found as well. Just getting my toes in there. It's like, wow, this is way harder than you imagine. Just the toll on everything. But I'm gonna go have a look at your Beston Museum later. We were supposed to do it before, but forgot. That's all right.
Sorry, we'll have a look at it later. So, what's in there? What's your favourite items? Like, I guess that's like almost like a prepping scenario.
Yeah, so
some part of it.
Started this during COVID, right? So, I've got 4x4 mats, Airdyne, like the bike, the rower, sauna, and a squat rack, which I mainly use for chin-up bars and the TRX. So very simple, very functional. I don't have a lot of time, and I'm not an athlete. If I train harder, I get worse, So my favourite thing to use there, like the sauna is good, but as far as exercising, I like the Airdyne. If I can't run, if it's raining, like I like to run. There's a reserve down here.
Yeah.
But the Airdyne is kind of, as far as bang for your buck, because again, I have very little time in the day, and everything for me is like, what's the best bang for my buck? If I could only do one cardio, what should I do? If I could only do one strength, what should I do? If I can only watch one video, what should I watch? You know, like one instructional. If I can only attend one seminar, what should I attend? For me, the air dying is cardio. It's moving my arms and legs, and for me, I get the most out of it in a short period of time.
Yeah, and you can go long and you can go hard on that, like however you like on that machine with the arms and the legs.
Yeah.
But you also got a big knife collection.
Just more the training ones from the I like the ones from the Philippines and stuff like that. You can't have them now, the zombie knives, they're illegal, but I like the the ones that I think if you go to the village where where they use them all day every day, you'll find the most interesting blades and stuff like that. Commando, it's more martial arts. So I have different I like not even knives, my friends get me the shillelaghs, like the Irish walking sticks and the hurling sticks. I just like sticks and all kinds of different everything like that. Because a lot of the training I did was with the rattan sticks, all different just types of stick and things like that. Just that's one of the beautiful things about Kali, is not focused on some weapon martial arts you're going to use a sword that's this length and this height and this width and this weight, and that's what you train with. Whereas Kali should be long, short, sharp, blunt, flexible, not. You should be able to pick up anything here and defend yourself better than if you had empty hands. So that's why variety. So
because I've always sort of been interested in that, especially with the sticks. So I probably should get into that, but we'll see. Get time. I've got a friend that trains jiu-jitsu down at our club that does Jeet Kune Do and does a lot of the Kali stuff as well. So hopefully I can learn a bit.
I guarantee you can train sticks longer than you can train jiu-jitsu. That's what Ray, for my master, says. Kali's your retirement plan.
Because jiu-jitsu has a no weapon sort of hand-to-hand combat's probably one of the best things you can still do as an older or as a more injured and older person, just depending on how you can manage it. So what are the biggest issues in the sport of jiu-jitsu, or even coaching and civil, with that you see out there, even either self-defense or the sport side, that you see? Or do you think it's actually progressing quite well, just in general?
I think things don't get worse. I think they just get more specific. Right, I just think as long as people are honest with themselves, and they don't just take things on face value, So people talk about self-defense. That's an argument people are never going to solve. It's and there's so many different philosophies. And they're all right, But I just think, I could talk all day about this and not make sense. But so the depends what your goal is. Why are you training, right? So, and it's going to be very different. So if your goal is to be ADCC champion or go as far as you can in no-gi grappling, you need to train one specific way. If you are training for the UFC, same deal. If you are a nerd like me who can only train 2 days a week, your training is going to be different. And why am I training? Am I training to do to be able to little confidence, little this, a little that, or am I trying to do a sport and get fitter? It's some things. Jiu-jitsu is so good. And martial arts are so good in general that you can do some kind of bad stuff and still move towards your goals. It's almost in spite of it. There are a lot of things where people train a certain way and they win in spite of their training, not because of their training.
Sort of just
grit
their way through.
There's gi, no gi, doing the classical self-defense. The prearranged attacks, this or that. I think my personal philosophy is to be as holistic and as well-rounded as possible. One, because I'm a martial arts nerd and I'm not good at it, but I find striking fascinating. The weapons, like I said, the grappling, I think it's all very interesting. And self-defense, like zombie prep, what you're prepared for and what actually happens, whatever happens out there, I guarantee it's nothing you've ever come across in your mind. The day you get attacked, it won't be at the time you're expecting. Either the day you've got the measles, or you're carrying your shopping with your one arm because the other arm's in a splint, or you've got your kids with you, or this or that. It's always will be never the right time or never exactly. So your training should almost be as chaotic as possible. You know,
There's
so
no
normally
such thing as a perfect.
correct.
Yeah.
So that first 6 months in pretty much any martial art is the self-defense part, any martial art. And then we find out how much fun it is, and then we turn it into a game. And playing that game makes us somewhat better at able to defend ourselves. You know, it all just depends how specific your training is.
Yeah.
Because self-defense is such a wide thing. It's like saying health. You know, health could mean exercise, could mean diet, could mean mental health. It could mean so many things. And like you say, well, people get caught in their own little, you know, world, and they say, well, I'm just going to eat this, and that means I'm healthy, but they're not working out. Or people say, I'm going to run a triathlon, but they eat like me, and they're not, you know. So it's the little bit of everything goes a long way, and you know, and it's got to be fun. If it's not fun, you won't do it.
Yeah. Well, there were old school triathlons or triathletes. I think are in the 90s. I think especially under this one specific coach and I even tried this, like, where they used to use KFC, like the chicken of KFC, because they had the perfect protein to fat to carb ratio, whatever.
Yeah.
That will give you the energy for the race. So actually, that's part of.
There you go.
That was used
Breakfast
as a
of
diet.
champions.
Yeah, and that was actually my go-to post-race nutrition, because you just feel like you just want that greasy kind of, or like that.
I'm hungry now.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, yeah. It's been a while since I've had it, but back in the day, that's what I used to do, and that was part of the plan. But because it was like everywhere, and it's like the only thing that these like athletes could get when they're traveling, and they could get their hands on, and like when you're traveling, trusting the food sources. It's like you go overseas, if you have McDonald's, you know what you're eating. It's the same shit all over the world.
So in Brazil, McDonald's, shame on me. Yeah. Because that's, I think I'd say number five.
Yeah. But it's not that that's a good thing, or we're not promoting any of that, but it's,
it is what it is.
Yeah. So, do you have any go-to submissions or techniques that like you found that you've that you find yourself going to a lot more than others? Like any sort of favorite spots or
the old answer, like in the answer that I've heard all the masters give, is the one that they give me, you know, and that's true to this day. The more like less energy I have, the weaker I become, the slower I become, the more I have to rely on the other person making a mistake. So that's the first answer. The second answer would be, nowadays I just much prefer positional dominance. Like when I come up through the ranks, I never wrestled on top. I just played guard, and I played this and I played that, and I was happy to be on bottom. Now I just like to get on top and then improve my top position, you know, and then work my way to the back. Is kind of, I think that's going to pay the biggest dividends for me in terms of you know, making the most of my time on the mat, and making progress with my my technical development. You know, you can still, even though I'm old, I can still improve my technique. Maybe my overall performance is going to decline, but my technical understanding should continue to increase the whole time. But I just like the basics. Like I think, you know, it's my biggest thing now. I was talking to my students the other day, the submissions I rate are the ones that a 12-year-old can do on me. Yeah. So a 12-year-old can arm bar me and break my arm. They can snap my arm off. A 12-year-old, as long as they can physically get around my neck, rear naked choke, Kimura, they can rip my shoulder out of its socket. Can they do other certain things? Like, I want to name it because someone will get upset, but you know, certain arm locks or chokes that a 12-year-old can't do on an adult. Okay, and then you go to catch wrestling. Okay, if you want some clicks or whatever, they have moves that only work on guys that are half your size. You know, you see moves like, and they come in, they go, here's like my little headlock squeeze or whatever, but you know, only I can do that to the 12-year-old. You know, so the whole point of martial arts in general is to be able to beat someone who you know is physically superior to you. So why? Yeah. So I just like those fundamental ones. It's very interesting. They're the first ones you'll learn from all the masters if it's your first day, and they're also the same as what the first ones you'll see in the UFC or at ADCC. Kimura, armbar, guillotine, rear naked choke, triangle with the legs. You know.
Yeah. Well, like Professor always, he says that in Jiu-Jitsu we're lazy. We want to figure out the most efficient and easiest and quickest way with least resistance. So it's like, like you said, like the other person making mistakes. So it's like, how do you, and it's like showing your hands. How do you get the other person to show their hands without showing your hands, like in poker? Alright guys, we've got the video up and running. We're going to press play now. So we'll have the video on in the background while we commentate over it. This was 2016, just after I got my purple belt, and we were travelling with Professor. And like that time, like this is me at my peak in terms of, I don't know if you remember, but like after I got my purple belt from Hickson, that, I don't know if there was an energy transfer or something. I felt like I was almost like on TRT, or I had this like full energy surge, adrenaline, that every time I rolled for the next year, it was almost like I was on steroids or something. I was just like so.
I believe. Yeah.
I don't know if there's a transfer of energy or something. Whatever you believe in the woo. So I'll just press play now. So here we go. And this is you and me. I've got my one arm with a tennis ball strapped up, protecting my wrist. Yeah, start from the guard and put you into that triangle.
Mm-hmm.
You're defending well with that arm in. I could get the squeeze, but I couldn't get free the arms properly. So
just weasel my way out.
Yeah, you got out of that one. There was a few. This was a really, really good roll. I don't know how much you remember from it.
Not a lot. I remember us rolling. I remember enjoying having a great roll. Yeah, it was always like rolling like with someone who I know is like a very good friend, but their game's unfamiliar. That's the best, right? So there's no pressure, and it's pure just like learning, and you learn much faster. So you either you're wrestling someone like at a tournament, you don't learn a lot, like so much, or if you're wrestling the same guy every day, it's different. But here's like two friends.
Yeah, here I'm trying to get the triangle again. Don't really want to get that. Don't really like using the gi over the head. It's just looks like they like usually if it gets too high, I'll pull it back down.
Should wear my gi properly.
I think it was sort of just thought, there we go, get out. Yeah, I'm just trying to control the arms with my one and a half limbs there. But yeah, like you can see how much my legs are working compared to, because I've only got sort of 3 limbs out of 4 working properly.
I remember see how you're grabbing your leg. I just remember how you use your skeleton so well. So I felt like I wasn't wrestling your muscle. It's the same with if you wrestle Master Pedro or the family. Like you're always running into forearms and shins and knees, or you're being locked inside some kind of closed circuit. Like, hey, you're grabbing your own leg. So it's your skeleton doing all the work, not your joints and not your muscles. Something that really impressed me.
This was I don't even know what I did there. It was a really cool sweep using but I had to use it's like a Rubik's Cube. I had to use all my body to sort of wrap around, use the leg to wrap around the arm and then change, adjust. But that was from that specific position with the arms on the ground. But I mean, not that I'm the best at it, but it's like trying to use the concepts of the invisible jiu-jitsu where it's like you can't always see what's happening, but you can feel it. I'm holding onto my own arm there because I've got a protective thing on my wrist there, so it's actually could use that. Like the old school WWF days where they used to have the cast on.
Yep.
And they used to come and hit people with a cast. So I put like foam padding on the outside so that
of course.
Try not to like hurt people. Here you get to my side control mount. And now I've got to get your hands on the floor so you're not in a position to punch me, but if you're in a position to punch me, you're in the position to cross-track me. So here to the upa, but I'm mindful of you reversing it, trying to hip escape away as well. everything I'm doing is sort of, it's like with most things, you can get like sort of 90% there, but it's just that last 10% is where the defense is, and that's where every good black belt can sort of defend at the last few percent. And back to the mount, I'm trying to put weight on your legs, stretch my legs out, trying to hold you down. I use that a lot with the stretching my legs out so you can't, to try to keep you down low and coming up high.
It's interesting. I changed how I do the mount a lot since then. That's one thing that's changed a lot in the mount. Even like with the gi now, I try and do head and arm choke. I've stopped using the collar a lot.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have changed their mount since then. In the last few years. I did the cross collar choke escape. I'm trying to work on the high mount here, and that was that roll.
Nice.
Yeah, that was a fun experience. I remember so I've done a couple of things in there that I've never done before, like that side control sweep. But that was really enjoyable, and it's always good rolling with a black belt or someone that's better than you, that is smashing you, but at the same time allowing you to move. And being like you said, friendly roll.
I think it's a good roll. If you see, if I look across the room, just in general, if I see people exchanging top and bottom, it's a good exchange. I'm not saying that's how a roll should look, but normally that means it's a good back and forth, and we're both progressing.
Yeah, and that way you can you're exploring techniques and positions rather than and going from place to place rather than just being because at the end of the day, anyone can just hold anyone down in side control if they really want to, and they're bigger, stronger. It's just that when they go to move to do something, that's when things open up. But if they don't want to open up and just sit there in side control, it's way different. We can watch another one if you want.
Whatever you want, I'm all yours.
This is one we did no gi the other day, and there's we'll just start it now. It was this was a way different person. My hip, I can hardly move, so it's a bit more of a friendly and a bit more of an open roll. That's where the friendship comes in. You can tell that we're both being nice to each other.
Absolutely.
And that's.
But that's the art, right? Is because we both trained a long time. I believe we can be nice without wasting each other's time. Sometimes you can be nice and you just kind of flop around. But here, we're moving. We get a sweat up by the end of the round, and I probably ended up in a bunch of positions like this kind of. I'm not sure we call this a crossover hook. I hadn't been caught in before, in a while. So it's making me think of things that I hadn't thought of if I had wrestled anyone else in the room.
Yeah, because I try to sort of double team as much as I can with that arm, and then was able to get to the back here. But you do really well to get out. So especially in no-gi, it's hard to get the controls.
Most of my time with my guys, half the room's better than me. I spend most of my time in bad positions. So it's...
Well, that's where you learn the most. But that's all my jiu-jitsu was especially with the one-handed stuff, or having it tied up in my belt. All that was learnt from. I had to learn the defenses of using the whole body as opposed to relying on strength. And here, I hook the arm there.
Yeah,
and try to double team the shoulder.
Yeah.
Just to try to get control of that arm. Because if the arm and shoulder, or if the shoulder's stuck, then you know where the other shoulder is, and it's the head's in between.
Yeah, no, it was clever. Yeah.
And then come to the back and I'm not, because of my hip, I'm not getting my hooks in properly on that right side. So, that's why it's. My back take wasn't as good. I think that was time, but we played.
We started halfway through the clock. Yeah.
We started second round. I think cause I think you taught. I think that lesson you taught
arm drag.
octopus arm drag to
Arm drag and
octopus
octopus,
guard,
yeah.
which I haven't really explored too much, but I sometimes find myself in that position, so that was a good class to attend. Yeah, just try to get control of that arm, switch the hips, but yeah, I didn't. You were able to
It's
get
hard
it
when you can't move your leg.
Yeah, it's hard.
Your
Like you can't like try to drive the hip down, and like
this is the same as like our last roll.
Yeah.
8 years later, or 10 years later, we're still doing the same thing.
I was like, oh, I got in that position again. Let's see if something can happen. It's like it's a bit different. Yeah. It's like you figured out the defense after that.
Probably couldn't bring your leg as high as you'd like because your hip. So.
Yeah, and there was a few things to that sweep. There's the arms and the legs and holding the leg.
So one thing I'll see about here, in case people listening are interested, like is what people call flow rolling, right? We're rolling, but we're flowing. And that was like I never had a good way of explaining this to people until I did wrestling recently. Gary Jones on the Central Coast, so they do flow wrestling, and the idea is in my mind when I'm rolling, I can counter, but I can't resist. Right, so especially on wrestling, someone much smaller than me, I can't just like if you're trying to grab my throat, I can't just block your hand. I've either got to accept that and deal with it, or move so you can't do it. If that makes sense. So I can't. That's one thing that helped me in my mind when I'm rolling with people. I'm trying to not you because you're another professor, but like I'm rolling with my students, I can't resist. I can only counter, and that helps me and it helps them.
Yeah, it's like. That's a way to learn to not use your strength.
Yep.
And
make your rolling productive.
Productive, and you get better at the technique.
Yep. The opposite is holding side control, like you said.
Or just hold it. Yeah.
Yep. That's
if your muscles are all.
You see some people like visibly shaking when they're rolling. I'm like, okay, there's a time for that. Absolutely. Like when you're just having one of those smash rounds. But if that's your default roll where you're shaking because you're using so much tension, is probably you're not getting the most out of your training time.
Yeah, I sometimes physically shake, but that's because of my injuries.
Right.
So I'm trying to hold something.
But you're not like exerting yourself else.
No, I'm not like trying to like
blow a gasket.
Yeah, but I'm like, it's like just holding a basic thing. Is sometimes start shaking, but that's more the injury. Yeah, because I find myself like in these sort of positions a lot. Like inside, I'm trying to control the shoulder, but you could feel me possibly setting up an armbar, so you're just like stopping all that.
So I step over I do this a lot here where my left leg's going over your leg. I'm not sure if it's the best thing in the world to do, but I get my back taken a lot and the guys either armbar me or really they lock the body triangle on me. So if I step over that bottom leg, it makes it hard for them to lock the body triangle.
Yeah.
It makes it harder for me to escape, but I really don't like getting body triangled.
Yeah, if you're going to escape into something worse, there's no point trying.
Exactly.
I mean, like, you try to learn and figure it out, but there's a lot of philosophy. But yeah, it's like that's why I like things like, I had to roll out of screen again, but with the flow rolling, if you do like if you roll position to position and say, okay, one way to do it, no submissions, and or you can submit, but just each position you're only allowed to stay into 3 or 5 seconds. If you're there for longer than that, then you have to go to the next position or let the person get on top. That's a good way I've found. Yeah. Like
just in general, like here we're rolling just because we're unfamiliar and anything's going to be a good roll. But I think just in general, the biggest mistake people make is they roll without a goal. Like the more specific, the more advanced you get, the more specific your training needs to be. Am I working this submission or that position? Am I trying and keep metrics. Like if you want to be the best you can possibly be, you don't just throw yourself at the mat. You go, right, today I'm working out, today I'm working back, this month.
And you have your goals when you come to class.
Correct.
That's sort of what Danaher says.
Yep.
Have
you met
self-defense.
Chris Dirksen down in?
No.
He was a guy, like at first, I hadn't trained him for 6 months, ran into him, and his back control was unbelievable. I said, what's the technique you're doing? He goes, it's not a technique. I just told myself I was going to get, I think it was 1,000 submissions from the back. Yeah. And his back, and so I took a lot from that conversation.
Yeah, well, that's where it's like you want to get good at defending, then put yourself in the position. And after 1,000 taps, you'll learn to defend. You reckon, like most of jiu-jitsu is recognizing the thing coming before it happens, and knowing it's coming, and having something to defend it, waiting for it.
And the problem with jiu-jitsu is there's so many new techniques. Like every week that I see something, say Craig Jones is going to teach us that I've never seen in my life. I'm like, I want to go practice that. But then I've dropped the other shiny toy. So when you have like a goal, like I'm going to get 100 submissions from the back, people like me with short attention spans need that.
Yeah, and that was that roll. Oh, that wasn't too bad. That was a good flow roll there. Yep. We did one more, but we don't need to show that. So, did one more in the gi. So we did one gi and no gi, 10 years apart, nearly, or 8 years or something.
Awesome.
Apart. That was a very fun, and like rolling with your guys as well. They smashed me, but they were super gentle. Like,
they smashed me too.
Yeah, they didn't like whip anything on, so it was all super nice. So I recommend if anyone's in the area, like your gym's a good gym. Like while it's still open, I'm not sure how long that'll be, but yeah, it's a good place to come and train. Good bunch of guys. It's also like any. Have you noticed any trends? Like we were talking before about like with the rolling, and always going into like there's new techniques coming out all the time.
Yep.
Have you noticed trends that have repeated themselves, or that have like faded away, or?
I see trends. I'm going to struggle to think of some. I see trends repeat themselves all the time. Again, like I was never a champion, not a tough guy. But one thing I can bring to the table is I've been around, not as long as the first generation, but I've been around a while and I've seen things come and go and then come again. So you see people like all of a sudden something's not popular and then it is popular. Like I remember when I first started jiu-jitsu, so I was late to the party, relatively speaking, but there was like the headline on Grappling magazine is, will De La Riva ever make a comeback? That was the headline. And now De La Riva's bread and butter. So it was popular and then it was unpopular and it's popular again. That's the classic example. But the other thing is, almost in a lot of cases, it's ridiculous. Like how the right thing to do is the polar opposite. Like the way leg locks is like probably the most obvious example. Like the way we used to turn is the exact wrong way to turn, to defend the heel hook. And it's in half guard, the way we're turning, in the way we're turtling, the way we're attacking the back, the way we're escaping back. If I had to see myself teach something 5 years ago, I'd say that guy is completely wrong. But it may come to be that we go full circle, or the other thing is we put strikes back in and all of a sudden the wrong way becomes the right way again.
Yeah, the right way becomes the wrong way, which becomes the right way again, yeah.
So I never speak in absolutes now, because over the one thing has happened to me many times over my jiu-jitsu journeys, I've had to go back to the drawing board. I've said something I was like wholeheartedly believer in, I'm like, I found to be incorrect. So now I never say never. Pedro Valencia has a good saying. He's like, jiu-jitsu is not always and never. So I very rarely try not to say never or always.
Well, he would say more jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Instead of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Very smart guy, but he's a really good time. It may be from his father, grandmaster, but I found so many times I've said that is wrong, that is right, and now I go to my current understanding. That's the way I would do it. Because I've been wrong so many times. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, that's sort of the evolution of the sport, of the art, of everything. It's like, what's the context? What's the situation? Never say never.
And that's the answer depends on the context. Where are you? Who are you? Who are you with? Who are they? What's happening? And even in self-defense, like the wrong thing to do is the right thing to do.
Yeah, because someone could have like a heel hook set up, but have no idea what that means, and then you can just do whatever. Like you could do the wrong thing and get out.
Yep.
Whereas someone that knows what they're doing and you don't have a clue what they're doing, you try to do the right thing, and then all of a sudden your knees under pressure. It's like, oh, okay, I've got a tap here, or tap or snap.
Yep.
So when did you receive your black belt?
My black belt, 2005.
Okay. Yep. So I think that's about around the time I started in jiu-jitsu. So have you noticed? Can you talk about the differences between receiving it back then versus the people that are like people like me that are receiving it now? Like, have you noticed any differences between, I don't know, the perception, or maybe not perception, like just what the requirements or what was expected?
Perception, maybe expectations, because like it was when I got it, I was there was that Jordan teaches jiu-jitsu. He's like another podcast guy. So he did the thing about, there was kind of like back in the day there was like all badass black belts, and now it's kind of hit and miss. I was one of the first ones I would consider, like, I wasn't a badass, you know, like everyone that I knew that got the black belt from me was a killer. They were an absolute weapon and no one could touch them. And it's not, I think it's not just like self-deprecating, like people, like I wasn't an athlete. I was the first like kind of nerd, not first, I was one of the first nerdy guys to train long enough to get the black belt. But even up in that time, even every belt, like, man, when the people ahead of me got the blue belts, they just walked on water, and it's like, man, I'll never get a blue belt, I'll never be as good as that person. And then you get the blue belt, and it was considered like you would never tap to a lower belt, you know, or you'd only tap unless your arm was like, you were going to be sore tomorrow, because like if it was like the perception and the culture was, if you lose, you're a loser. And that was very counterproductive. So then I would start to avoid training sessions, miss rolls, not come to certain classes just because I would lose. And that's the worst thing I can do. Like that is the time to lose with your friends. So the day that it counts when you're wrestling someone you don't like, or you're fighting someone you don't like, you're good to go. So and like now I get tapped by blue, brown purple belts all day, every day. You know?
Yeah, well, that's where it can lead to, like we were talking about before, with all the sort of the one touch. The one-touch killer, or the one-touch knockout sort of thing, with all the cheese stuff where...
I've come to that fork in the road many times, like where, because I started, and again, I'm not a badass, I'm like, I'm the least natural athlete there is, but I started, I'm a brown belt, and I have a room full of white belts, and I can beat everyone, just because you should. Then all of a sudden, the guys are getting better, and I come to a fork in the road every now and my students are giving me a hard time. And now I'm not beating everyone in the academy. What do I do? And I've got to do a gut check. What do I do? Do I stop rolling and just start coaching? And now later on, okay, some of the color belts are catching me. I'm a black belt and color belts are catching me. What do I do? Do I stop rolling? And now, like, half the room is better than me. What do I do? And my answer is, like, if there's a bump in the night and I need to defend myself, I'm going to be better prepared to do that if I've been even beat up by a bunch of purple belts. That Luke is going to be better prepared than the Luke that just coaches. You know,
going through the fire rather than
Again, Angela made that help me too, because Angela, she would like, and I would ask, there's a funny story. Can I tell a story? So there's a guy at my academy, Keone. Anyone who's met Keone, he's a very special grappler. Just amazing. Super works hard there 7 days a week, but he also has a brain for jiu-jitsu and physically, like he's an athlete too. And he started tapping me when I was a black belt. He was a blue belt, and I would come home and Angela would say, "Luke, you're a black belt, you can't let this guy tap you." And I'm like, I promise, I'm trying. And then it might have even been that visit. No, it would have been maybe one of the first visits. Master Pedro came. I was like, "Master Pedro, I'm going to wrestle this guy. I want you to watch me and tell me what he's doing right or what I'm doing wrong." Okay, I didn't say anything to Keone. Like, Keone, we just wrestle like normally. He caught me a few times, choked me, arm locked me. And then we got in the car. I was driving to lunch with Master Pedro. I was like, "Master Pedro, so what is it?" And he looked at me and goes, "Some guys are just better." So it's that was kind of good. It's good to accept that, because it's like, okay, you know, I'm not making some, because like it was just, once you get over that hump, okay, then I can just enjoy my training again, you know. And I had to go over that hump many times, and I'm sure there'll be more. You know, it was all the way up to, like, again, I don't want to compare myself, but Grandmaster earlier, you know, the stories, like in the end, he would spar from the bottom of the mountain, right? So we'll all be there one day, hopefully, you know. So
well, like, Master Pedro, like we'll talk about before, it's like you were probably asking him a question, you know, what's the magic technique that I can do? Like, what sequence, what this and that, like what 15 move kind of technique do I need to beat him? He's like, then he'll just come up with a simple answer. It's like, okay. Yeah. And it just makes so much sense, and it's sort of, and like you could just say something so simple yet so precise that can sort of put you on a different path, and it's like, so it's very useful. So just like one more question, or maybe a couple more. Like, what are the different eras in jiu-jitsu? Like, this is sort of like, I guess, with the previous question, like, how have you seen the evolution, like with the different eras? Like you said, the old guys, they're like all, at least the perception is they're all hard asses, never tap. Like the Gracie family are famous for never tapping and all this sort of stuff. Versus to I guess the current era of athletes coming through. A lot of sports athletes, probably less self-defense, or maybe, I'm sure there's still a lot of self-defense, but they're not really the ones that are out there, I guess. Yep. Have you noticed, what's the different eras that you've sort of...
So there's kind of two answers, if I can answer that. Like there's two kind of ways. There's like how we train and teach, and then what we're seeing at the professional, like fighting level. So probably the first one's easier for people to see. So before, and this is my perception based on my experience, and so I came late to the party as far as the overall timeline of jiu-jitsu, but we started with the UFC, and it was Brazilians dominating. Any black belt could beat pretty much anyone else. Very quickly, the other stylists learned just enough jiu-jitsu to survive, and as the rules evolved, to kind of stalemate and even start to win, because the rules changed a lot. Little differences make big differences. You take away it's not a cop out, but you take away up kicks from the guard, you take away certain things, you add time limits, you add rounds are mandated stand-ups. It changes things a lot. Okay, so then there was this thing, and then there was the second wave. So it's like the best example is probably Brazilian top team, where the Brazilians and Brazilian jiu-jitsu community in general evolved to accommodate the new rule set. And then they started to dominate again, right? And then everyone else kind of caught up, and everyone started to do the cross training and all that kind of stuff. And then it's no longer like a Brazilian thing, but like the whole world has learned to take on the Brazilian mindset. Talking Grandmaster Horan, to go off on a tangent, like jiu-jitsu is about efficiency and best practice. Like jiu-jitsu can be like the best way to peel an apple. You may not know the best way, but you can know the best way currently. And you're seeing this now in ADCC. Jiu-jitsu now has the best leg locks, because leg locks are allowed, and because jiu-jitsu is so flexible in its overall philosophy, it will take everything it can, and it will make it it'll refine it relatively quickly, in the space of a few years at most. And you're seeing the same thing with takedowns now. The takedown game, again, it's jiu-jitsu in general had weak takedowns, and very, very quickly when it became, because it's the tail wagging the dog, because some rule sets encourage takedowns so much. Now the jiu-jitsu guys are incorporating wrestling, and they're taking down wrestlers in submission grappling contexts, where they have to worry about chokes. They're not going to win Olympic gold medals, but they're taking down superior takedown artists. So that's the one thing I've seen. We're constantly, jiu-jitsu as an art is constantly evolving to meet whatever. One day Mark Zuckerberg is going to do a UFC with knives, say, and jiu-jitsu will evolve, and you will see people must train jiu-jitsu to win knives, or bare knuckle, or hands dipped in glass. Zuckerberg or Musk or someone like that is going to do a UFC, and like the same way as the UFC changed the world, ADCC, some rich guy came along and said, hey, do this, there'll be another one. Instructionals, there was waves, right? The other thing, like, what's the way? So it started off with Hori and Hoyce's DVDs, like, so that's where I kind of learned a lot from. And then there was like the WMA, so it was like Mario Sperry, all his DVDs, Murilo Bustamante. Then the next wave was Salu and Shanji and theirs, and they were like, and they called it revolution. Each set was a revolution, but it didn't replace the one before. Like, I'll still every year, every month, go back and watch Hori and Hoyce. Then Hiron and Hannah came out with Grace University, and now you've got BJJ Fanatics, Danaher and Craig Jones and Lachlan Giles. These. So there's been like very distinct periods in instruction as well, and everyone has like kind of revolutionized the bleeding edge of like grappling technology.
Yeah. So it's like, even though they might fall behind depending on rule sets, like they're continually evolving. Yeah. And that's the whole MMA, Jeet Kune Do kind of. Yeah.
But if there's a bump in the night, you'll find yourself doing what Hori and Hoyce and Grandmaster Alia taught.
Yeah, and you'll fall back to the base.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, just a final question. Who's more loyal, blue belts or dogs?
Dogs are better than everything. Okay, so it doesn't matter what belt. Dogs are the best. I love dogs. I love dogs better than everyone knows me. Knows I'm a dog person. So yeah, dogs win it. You ask me anything, dogs. Yeah, dogs are better drivers. Anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess blue belts might be like some cats.
Yeah, we use them for live bait just to give the dogs a treat.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Is there anything else you want to mention? So
no, that's everything. Thanks very much for your time. I hope that was interesting.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah, found out a few good things. I think it was a good conversation. So if anyone wants to find out more about your school or what you're doing, probably won't release this for a few months, like a couple of months maybe.
Yep.
So I'm just getting back into doing my podcast. So this is the first one I've done for a while. Hopefully get a couple more and then start back up again with my podcast. Just dealing with a lot of personal family issues and like health issues, like trying to help out with my parents and things like that. So like it's very time consuming and difficult to sort of put your energy into sort of the podcast and these sort of things. But is there any social media like Instagram, Facebook?
Beston Gracie, I am on Instagram. I'll be using that one for the time being. Yeah. Beston Gracie at Beston Gracie.
Okay, anyways, I'll put a link in the show notes and that's it. All right.
Thanks for that.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Us. Alrighty, guys. I hope you enjoyed that Rollcast with the ever-reclusive Luke Beston. Yeah, you don't know how privileged you are to have witnessed such a rare sight of Luke Beston in the wild, being out in action and also in the comfort of his own home. He is now a Ronin, like I said, roaming the world, traveling to different gyms all over, testing out and blue belts all over the world. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the Rollcast. Let me know what you think about the way I edited that section of us rolling together. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. Check out the links in the description below for North-South Jiu-Jitsu, and also like, follow, subscribe and share. The socials are all down below. So yeah, I will catch you guys next time. Us.